Hello, my name is Jennifer Sperry Steinorth, and I'm delighted to be reading to you on behalf of the Badmouth Poetry Series. Thank you to Rebecca Aronson, who has invited me to read, and thank you for tuning in. I'll be reading from my second book, Herbert Read, a graphic poem. Herbert Read is an artifact of erasure, both visual as well as poetry. It is an erasure of an entire book, The Meaning of Art by Herbert Read, a book I first discovered in 2016 and which was first released in 1931. The Meaning of Art is a survey of art from prehistory to the modern era. And though the female form appears frequently, 0 female artists are named in this book. So, from the voice of the male critic surveying male bodies of work, I began to excavate a first-person female voice. I'll be reading to you and showing slides of pages from the book, but I'll show a couple of pages so you get a sense of it. I'll be skipping around, beginning at the beginning and ending at the end, but just sort of weaving the pieces together in a semblance of a whole tapestry. I'll share screen with you now. There are some little bits I may not read on the pages as well. All right, here we have the preface. Face this book as a road or passage from what is. I hope, for the sake of completeness, with the listener in the present, I make for clarity and resurrect Francesca. Tense. And this is from the table of contents. I art soft in between. I art not golden. I'm a distortion of what we picture as human. I art our motives. A prim fusion of orange and plum I poach in disaster. I art no escaping the imp factor or Barbie. I arts point, I toys view, I other in intimate value. Note, I wish to thank Mr. Read for very kindly lent pains, and Mr. Read, of course, is the author of the source text. And I wish to thank all of these fine players. These are all of the artists who have illustrations which appear in the text. The single female artist who appears in the 3rd edition is Barbara Hepworth, who you will see in the middle. The imp is, properly speaking, what is common to all the arts, is the best starting point of our inquiry. And I, the lovely lace ruff which adorns him. But actually, we do make such a sensuous impression of vitality that a man sees and feels the object, sees its universal imp, sees the one in many, the many in one, at his peril. I remember a pain that he called fine, from which ivory, bone, silk, wool, Paris. The ass is his especial cathedral, conceived as walls enclosing a space, and as such must be viewed from within, or as a face defining a mass, and as such must be looked at from without. If we mind his rose and passage his child, amusingly he relates how pain is in the hands of a master. Even Leonardo had to touch my whole open window, as it has been called, with his manual dexterity and a scientific aim at feeling me not in control of his effects. He ran. Oh, heart. Oh, human continent. Except to suffer amour is splendid. Its innumerable domes and minarets and the extraordinary refinement of its ornament. I is, can be never deprived of that power, power to birth myriad selves. For such a phenomenon is I, an ox, an owl, a pipe organ in brine. But what of primitive desires for brightly colored feathers or to be conquistadors, the most ruthless vandals the world has ever known? Mr. Iwin Bullock tells us it is normal, the eye exhibition. So in the valley, Mr. Bullock curates unusual knowledge of very rare impulsing meat. This is probably connected with the failure of this civilization to develop an elaborate structure of ritual sacrifice and erotic play that celebrates not life, love, but death. Certain repulsive qualities. We have to admit, if we allow sensuous faculties free play, heart is the most beautiful produce one could swallow, over which stretch the skins of human terror. Sadism is intense. Myth and folklore, fairy tales and horror, we know too little, too much about our own righteous dog. I practice a disinterested appreciation, a state of passive receptiveness, as Roger Fry called it, and so find endless pleasure. We know a flue penetrates eye. We know an ohm stretching from eyeland through to the Renaissance. Oh, oh, we come to be mother. Other, other, As ever mother, we conceive, hand of my mom. Mi mom, madre, ma mère, mama, mama soft, sin word, strange, uncontent to remain outside. But softly we hum, feeling worser and worser, slowly learning our mum's genius is buried in the cellar. Thirst is a discipline of color, of pain, a brush, a brush, a brush, and years of rain. Thirst is author and judge of mother. It makes, then passes through her fingers. Ink, every vulgar mother whole story. A sung story conceives a story. Please let us refashion the story. I may suggest love is a professor, two round arches crossing a vault. The vault suggests great height, which in turn involves a buttress, the buttress a pinnacle, and so on. But that does not explain the overwhelm that meets you as you enter me, your feelings roused by no solution of engineering, how we spoke one language, subterranean masters, indulging fancies between thinks, go to, it was never, Neverland, a dynasty of dumb grace we could not escape, middle age intact. Who transforms the world naive? Naive to all the great masters. I begin with shade, plain words, a trick of light, then on to murder. Man was so into sacrifice, but maybe, maybe I went too far. I was made a kind of lacework. The lace maker's eyesight is sharp, our flesh soft. Once recaptured, held in suspicion, lost again his hands. Nothing is more subtle, more successful than a minor poetry, so sweet we cannot imagine our own banality. I have spent my life in porcelain, and yet we rarely caress porcelain for porcelain's pleasure. And still we cannot speak. Why her silence with its dark and overnourished forms must be a tinkling of bells, graceful and fugitive, deal, 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 no, 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 no. The tomb has windows, a shadow relief. If you are erased, if the hand you see in the stone remains buried, if you dare to be no man's hotel. Freedom, freedom, come to me. Within our walls, you need no discovery. Say, freedom, freedom, comes, O other in me, sacred rage. In view of the sea, in view of the hearse of time, what place should be given to words, scenes, figure studies of oneself, of any self in transit? In this our one flight, in light of the sea of tranquility, the tranquility of a mind no plea can move. What good are temples to the moon? Unless to set ablaze a face otherwise occupied by islands. Why draw lines between us if not to execute the distance between us? If not to let an interior be read? To be very vividly red, red, red and green and yellow, blue and green, such that we do not destroy one another when we bleed together. For each, we realize the self. The self is liquid, lacework, holy water, glass, a conception obliged to transpose as green for red, with a beloved, and the beloved is known by many names and by the desire to renounce one name and take another. Sweet pea, lion, pussy, Ernie, fire, flower, thou, spear, angel, Amado, Romeo, Grace, she, Queen bee, he, they. We love to embrace the danger. We art to toy with feeling, transposing one kind of fear, one kind of love for another. We art to toy with memory, those plastic dreams, to fix in concrete, as if a kiss were anything but goodbye, as if to unknow the marble profile of goodbye, as if to return to the dream of the unborn calling, and in the place the book is buried, plant a tree. Amen, amen, amen. We art to toy with alternatives, by touch to cure, by love to infect, not a man speaking to men, but grief and a patchwork spring whereby we come to embroidery and sing. We art to transmute pain, that germ that plays upon our nerves, patient as nurses, who testify to our fragility like a Greek chorus, pain into wonder, homage, moonlight, horseshit, pity, wool, stone, velvet, impetus, a war, dawn, relief, salt, furniture, vision, a bridge. When vision is communal, it becomes religion. We art. This is God's image. Or only hands on the walls of a cave. Thank you for listening. Be well.